Hi, I'm going to talk about your number stories project, your final project in this course. How exciting! So, you will write a number story about a focused student. If you're wondering what's a number story, I'm being purposely vague on purpose so that you can create a story about numbers for your student that is meaningful to you. Of course, it's a final project that I need to assess, so there are some requirements to it, but I am excited to see what you create here. So you will select a focused student from your practicum to reflect on their mathematical thinking. Using qualitative descriptions, describe the student thinking concisely but robustly. So I think that's the challenge, is that we want to describe a focused student's mathematical thinking really deeply in a way that I can understand that what you're trying to communicate about it, and also really gets into those nuances about their procedural understanding and conceptual understanding, but also is not really long. It's hard for you to write a 30-page paper, and it's hard for me to read that. And ultimately, I think what would be really awesome with these number stories is for you to maybe even share it with a parent of the child that you wrote about or with your cooperating teacher. And so, in that sense, it needs to be concise so that people can understand it and read it. But you also need to communicate the rich things that are happening in children's mathematical thinking. So I think that'll be the challenge to write something that's shorter, but also really gets into those deep nuances of the children's thinking. So what are you analyzing? Well, you can pick a specific task that a student maybe has engaged in. If it's just one task that you're writing your number story about, I would hope it's a really, really awesome task, maybe a task that a student productively struggled over time, or it's something that they will see again or had experienced multiple times. So if you only pick one task to kind of analyze how a student was thinking in it, you want to make sure you go really deep. Or if it's maybe something really interesting happened, and it wasn't maybe something that they had over and over, but something really interesting happened in your practicum and you think it would make a nice number story. Maybe your number story is a moment where they have an aha, or they were stuck for a really long time, but they really persevered. You could pick a series of tasks. So perhaps you've done a certain mathematical task over and over. Different tasks, but maybe same problem type or same mathematical content idea, and you want to show the growth of a student. Maybe that's your story. So you will construct this a document that highlights the story. What kind of document, you might be wondering? Well, whatever is meaningful to you. Maybe you want to use lots of pictures and you want to make it like a poster, and so you change the width of your paper dimensions, and you want to do it landscape, and you do it in Google Docs or Word. You use PowerPoint, you use Google Slides. So you're going to just make a document, and you will upload that document to Voxtail for me to read. After that, you're going to create a video where you're screencasting kind of like this, and it's sort of your presentation. And it would be awesome to have your poster or your Word document or your PowerPoint behind this, and you describe the number story to us. And you will film it and then post the link on Voxtail so that other colleagues can watch your video and you can watch theirs. So I wanted to provide some sort of framework. So I have a template, but there's freedom here. But these are the things that will help you align to the rubric I'm using for assessing. So share at least one mathematical task, and it should be a good task. Appropriate for students, it should have high cognitive demand, or share the mathematical context of your focal students. Maybe they're in a series of tasks or unit. You're going to analyze and describe in the following areas: conceptual understanding, computational/procedural fluency, mathematical reasoning, problem-solving skills. These tenets should look familiar. And this proficient, partial, and minimal, I would like you to describe this. And this kind of overlaps with 3, because in 3 I say to cite specific examples that illustrate how they think. So you're going to be talking about the student thinking qualitatively using your own words, and both verbally when you're presenting and also perhaps in some written text. But it would be nice to also share some evaluation criteria. So like what does in the mathematical tasks or tasks are doing, what does conceptual understanding look like, what does computational fluency look like, and what does problem solving look like, mathematical reasoning. And these ideas of having like some kind of numbered system, you don't have to do it 0 through 4, you could do it 1, 2, 3. However, you should have descriptors, and where does your students' thinking fall within this? What's next for your student in mathematics? What are they doing next? And are you able to integrate in other perspectives? Perhaps you have a quote that the student is saying something about their own work, or maybe you've asked your cooperating teacher about their perspective of the student's thinking, or maybe you've had an email conversation or a phone call conversation with the parent or parents or guardian. I should probably add that in. The adult human. Okay, and then I say disseminate your work in case the directions here are not clear. Upload a document to Voxtail in the hand. Paste a URL to a video in the discussion forum, and then discuss with your colleagues. And it would be awesome if you could share this with a cooperating teacher or there we go. Let's see here if I have a rubric here. So first, when I'm assessing it, is it complete? Like, did you do all the things that are in that document I just showed you? Thoughtfulness or depth of analysis of student thinking. The purpose of this is to describe mathematical thinking, and so a comprehensive, detailed explanation of what's learned from the mathematical thinking and the tasks or contexts are shared. And quality of the analysis, so like when you're doing like the qualitative description and the evaluation criteria, like are you really doing descriptors in each of the categories? Like what does conceptual understanding for this look like? What does procedural understanding for this look like? Multiple perspectives or where to next. So for instance, for here, this is an and, so you've incorporated other voices and you talk about what's next, and this is an or. So you just talk about what's next or you integrate different voices. Maybe you do one or the other, and I don't understand like the writing or something, so that's what this is, or you just don't do it at all. That's what's down there. Appropriateness of number stories. So like, is it appropriate? Does it, like, are the tasks appropriate for the students? Is the purpose of it more asset-based in terms of extending and building on student thinking? And then the quality of the writing and the video. Obviously that matters. So that's what we have here. So this is my first time doing this project, and so I wanted to share sort of the inspiration, since I don't have previous examples. I read a book that's called Learning Stories, and it's talking about teachers writing stories about learning of their students, and and the impact that has on learners' identities, um, and it's actually focused on early childhood, early education. Um, but I think it's important at all grade levels. And so I felt really inspired by that and wanted to do something similar for our class. So here's one that was in the book. Again, this is different from our project, but I just wanted to show you like the inspiration. It's called Little Miss Scientist. And you can see there's pictures and some student work. Actually, the parent wrote right in here, where to next, and we have the student's voice integrated in. There's one that's called An Artist Among Us, and the teacher really just creates a narrative here about the student as an artist and has lots of visual representations on the right to help us. This is a very concise one, maybe too concise for our project, but it has a learning outcome and it shows the student engaged in the math. When I say it's too short, maybe too concise for our project, is the analysis of key components. You can see here it's not really telling us anything about procedural conceptual reasoning. I would want that kind of here. So that's the inspiration. I think the other thing that inspired me is I love case studies for understanding mathematics. And so here's a case study from a book I enjoy reading. That's the mathematics one. And it talks about here learning to think in terms of tens. And a teacher wrote this about a student that she has in grade 2. And this happened in December. And she talks about this problem and talks about George's 2 ways of thinking about this problem, David's 2 ways of thinking about this problem, Angela's ways of thinking, Danny's ways of thinking, and really just kind of unpacks like what this means in terms of like the power of making tens essentially. And so I think those influenced like my excitement towards these number stories, and I just thought that might be helpful for you to see as you work on your number stories.